Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. In today's episode we are going to be looking at August's exceptional story Unto Dust, but as always before I start I give people the warning that if they want to do this themselves, go ahead and do it before watching this video. Please support Failbetter by buying the Exceptional Friendship. You get extra cards, more actions, and access to these wonderful stories. And there's the place we have to go. Unto Dust, a visit from a lawyer. You are woken by a knock on your door in the dead of night, which I can only imagine is a terrible way of being woken up. Bleary-eyed, you make your way to the entrance to your abode. Two lawyers wait outside, hoping to be let in. They wear the livery of Penceforth and Revolt, the most ancient legal practice in London. Between them, they carry a heavy wooden box. They are here to see you because of... Okay, we have a couple of options here. Your social cachet. Your name is known in fashionable parlours and smoky clubhouses all across the city. Or we're an acquaintance with a certain great lady. The soft-hearted widow commands respect across the classes. She cultivates friendship with barristers, judges, and attorneys to better advocate for the causes dearest to her. Or we have our affiliation with the dead, which we do not have. In the great places where the Tomb-Colonists spend their days, they speak your name with fondness. Now I assume we got these from our renown. Yes, my renown with the Tomb Colonies is 4, not 5, so we don't have access to that, but my renown with society is 9, so I think we will go with society. The lawyers, bleary-eyed, apologise for the lateness of their hour. Their client, in his great dotage, is unfazed as to the needs of other, younger people. They have a proposal for you. They would like you to arrange a funeral. Their client, a grand baron of ancient house and illustrious renown, is about to enter the grand sanatorium, the final resting place for many a tomb colonist. In London, one does not arrange one's own funeral. That would be vulgar. That task falls to his heir. But in the Baron's words, he is a feckless fop and a flibber gibbet. I need to use that word. Flibber to gibbet. The Baron requests your presence at his heir's side to ensure things run smoothly. A reward is promised, sufficient to your service. So we've been given an onerous legal obligation. Their charge legally dispensed with, the overtired lawyers have only one last bit of business. The box. Heavy ash and circled with thick copper bands, it broods on your doorstep. The only detail to mar the effect is a note pasted onto the front. In stern, demanding handwriting, it reads, "Do not open, you bloody fools." The lawyers from Penceforth and Revolt bow and take their leave. The details of your task, they say, are in the box. I guess we'll open the box. Perhaps this will shed some light on what on earth you've been landed with. The note wards away fools, of which you are not one. No sooner have you heaved the lid open than a dusty voice cries, "Stand back!" An ancient tomb colonist vaults from the box and lands on your doorstep with an audible crack. Limping, he pushes his way inside and immediately demands a brandy. The decaying tomb colonist transpires to be the Grand Baron himself. "I'm back from a very long voyage, very unpleasant but necessary. I should be in the sanatorium by now, but matters here in London detain me." One of which is his funeral. He cannot settle his affairs until it is over, but his heir seems unlikely to make a decent fist of it. "This is where you come in. My grandson knows to expect you. You will guide him and ensure that it is all done properly. I wouldn't wish to interfere, of course, but I want things done right. The guests, the arrangements, and so on, and he is not to attend alone. My grandson must have prospects. Too long has he hidden away. The near cadaver settles himself on your settee. One bony finger strikes the air. One last thing. I've been away too long. I have a list of things I'd like you to look into for me, being more supple than I. Just to check my grandson's progress. Understood? Capital. Okay, so the Grand Baron wants a report on his heir's activities. Go to the Great Dean's School, the Clay Tailors Club, and the Penceforth and Revolt to gather information of him. Okay. So, Ladybones Road is where Penceforth and Revolt is. I don't know where the Great Dean's... Don't know where that is. Is that the university? Or you must visit the Clay Tailor anywhere in London. They appear to all be here. And I'm currently in the House of Chimes. Okay, that's perfect. That means I don't have to hunt them down. Where should we start? The Clay Tailor is at the top. The most singular and the most fashionable club in London. These facts are connected. To be fashionable, one must be singular. Under the auspices of the Clay Tailor, the brightest butterflies of London society are pinned to the modish tables of the Green Salon at least twice weekly. The reclusive heir was once a member. It is likely that other members will have recollections of his time in their company. Well, we are not in the Clay Tailor Club, because I'm not that highbrow, apparently. So, we are going to be forced to eavesdrop on the conversations. You're not permitted in the Green Salon, of course, but a building has many rooms, and any wall might sprout ears. With the right encouragement. The wrong sort of eccentric. A butler's uniform means you won't be immediately ejected. This large glass, requiring a polish, will work as a hearing aid when placed against the wall. You spend an hour listening to the barbed competition among the fashionable socialites in the next room. While everything they say is of note, several particularly poisonous phrases require writing down for future use. It is some time before they say anything useful. At last, someone remembers the reclusive heir. That odd chap with a love for Regency fashion. Novel at first, but wasn't it a relief when he was shown the door? That's all he ever wore. What's wrong with Regency fashion? Okay. I guess we will go to the Penceforth and Revolt next. The ancient legal establishment lurks in the shadow of the bazaar. Gaslight streams from its Tudor windows, revealing clerks on every floor, busy as bees in a hive. The practice focuses on family and inheritance law, a complicated field in the Neath. The accordance of additional time to all their clients down here is reflected in their hourly rates. Let's ask the lawyers about the reclusive heir. You have legitimate business, empowered by the Grand Baron as his representative. The clerk on the desk is no match for the force of your charm in full flow. She bustles away, leaving you to admire the clock in her office, depicting the coats of arms of London's finest families. She returns with a ledger detailing the heir's activities since assuming control of the estate. He has spent much of his grandfather's funds on extensive and extravagant renovations of the hall. He has fired most of the servants and dwells practically alone. Charitable endowments and public patronage carried out by his grandfather have been abandoned. The reclusive heir has withdrawn from public life, it seems. Oh dear. Okay, so let's go to the Great Dean's School. Great Dean's School is one of the most exclusive establishments in London. It does not so much select its pupils as provide places to those for whom attendance is a birthright. It nestles on the north bank of the Stolen River, its elegant railings cloistering its cluster of buildings from the depredations of the Coidian. Your task is to gather information on the reclusive heir's school days. We're going to have to conduct discreet inquiries to safeguard its former pupils and donors. The school guards its records like the Sphinx her answers. However legitimate your business, your methods will have to be illegitimate. After an interview for a position as a schoolmaster, you disappear into the school. A carefully curated wardrobe, a neatly forged backstory of genteel poverty, and a doctorate to fund at Somerset furnish your credentials. The record room is kept in the attic, along with the art department. The records are meticulously ordered. You have no difficulty locating what you need. You find the copies of his old reports. The tutor's comments are perfunctory and vague, as if they can't remember who he is. There are no trophies won, nor clubs attended, no debates championed, feats of athleticism, or musical accomplishment. The reclusive heir passed through Great Deans like water through a sieve. Well, we're not learning very much here, are we? Shall we return to the Grand Baron? He has taken up residence on your settee, menaces your drinks cabinet, and critiques your decor. When you are out on his business, he installs objects more suited to his tastes. Thus, your mantelpiece is now cluttered with garish Art Nouveau prints and ugly brass plates in the most of the moment styles. Up close, his is scrawny, even pitiable. Could that not be he is scrawny? A few mistypes in this. There was two ises earlier that I ignored. Close, he is scrawny, even pitiable. That's gotta be he. Damn it. Bones peek through rotting bandages, and unless he makes great effort, his speech is slurred and slow. His impeccably tailored dress suit only accentuates this portrait of decay. Shall we ask about all of these things before we go back to him? Okay, let's ask about the reclusive heir. Why is he so concerned about the heir to his estate? The Grand Baron makes a slight groaning noise, which might be disappointment, or a minor organ giving out. Truth be told, I do not know him very well. I believe he's a grandson, or perhaps a grand-nephew. I ceased to get attached to relatives after the sad business with my father and the various incidents after the fall. Let us call him my grandson for simplicity's sake. He has had custody, if not control, of the house since I was packed off to Venderblight. The Grand Baron shakes his head with a rattling sound. I have heard he is mercurial and romantic. As a character, it bodes ill. Okay, let's ask about the dependable housekeeper. He has alluded to a certain retainer in his employ, upon whose shoulders he entrusted the estate. The Grand Baron unstoppers another bottle of brandy with a satisfying pop. She was a scullery maid in my father's day. After the fall, most of the servants fled or had things fall on them, or other carelessness. Not her. she kept things spick and span, come robbery men, looters, or accusive devils. While we had a vacancy for the most senior position on staff, well, there was only one candidate. Indeed, I trust her enough to have made her witness my will. Let's ask about his preferences for his funeral. He fidgets on your settee as though dying to be asked. Why, I'd barely given them a thought. The Grand Baron has many preferences, though perhaps many prejudice would be more accurate. He is, or was, a man who looks forward. Modernity and its engines are his second chiefish passion, after himself and his achievements. He has a particular hatred for the old-fashioned and outmoded, and the decorative. I don't hold with it, he says, searing his lungs with a foul cigar. In this life we must look forwards. The past is a locked tomb. Let's ask about his history. He has more past than present now. Oh, our family was very important once. In my father's day, one could guarantee each and every one of our relatives a place at the debutante's ball. The fall changed all of that. His voice rattles. We came down away from London, westward. It took time for us to be found, and there were costs. When we made our return, we were diminished, and everything had changed without us. He pauses for a moment, as though considering how much to say. My father made an unholy mess of things. Things were better after I gained control of the estate. Okay. What about his plans for the future, since he loves to live in the future, apparently? What comes next for the Grand Baron? A dusty laugh that becomes a cough. A tremulous wave of the hand. I'm leaving it all behind. I shall enter the grand sanatorium as I came into this world, bereft of all but my name, and armoured only in my dignity. He repeats this word for every time you ask, no matter how much you try to persuade him to elaborate. Let's not ask about our task, we already know. So, let's report back to the Baron. You have uncovered all you can about the reclusive heir. The Grand Baron sighs. It is a sound close to a death rattle. I am not surprised. He was a dreamy child, mooning over fantasies and phantasms. Most tiresome. But this was the risk I took when I told him management of the estate was his when I was compelled to leave London, or to Venderblight. Could that not just be for Venderblight? The Baron takes a generous swig of brandy. Some trickles out from gaps in his bandages. A man must stand on his own in this world. I learned that in the fall. A shame my grandson is inadequate to the task. He turns his attentions back to you. All the more reason for you to go to the hall now, before he makes a pig's ear of my bloody funeral. Okay, let's go to the hall. Ash Tree Hall is a coach ride away, your fare covered by the Grand Baron's largesse. The tenements and alleys of the city fall away as you travel west, replaced by the mudbanks and dense mushroom fields that speckle the outskirts of London. After an hour or more, you arrive at the foot of a tall hill. A narrow path runs up to where a tall, Gothic manor rests. It resembles an abbey, and its walls are bone white. The upkeep must be extraordinate. So let's present ourselves. You are about the Grand Baron's business. The bell echoes through the hall, and then falls silent. It takes 3 more attempts before anyone answers. When the door opens, You are led inside by the dependable housekeeper. She is all apologies, professing to having been at the other end of the hall, dusting. It is, she says apologetically, a very big house, and I am rather small. The interior of the hall turns out to have been painted in rich scarlet, silver candlesticks lining its plush corridors, and bookcases resembling German altarpieces adorning its walls. The housekeeper leads you to a study at the heart of the manor, guarded by 2 full suits of armour. The interior of the study is a sumptuous riot of folk Gothic art. Slender columns hold up soaring arches. Candles placed under rose windows sent stained light spilling onto the towering wooden shelves. A pale young man sits at a heavy desk, writing with ink and quill. He looks up as you enter and immediately lowers his eyes. "Hello," he says to his chest. So, I think since it says we will be occupied with the funeral for some time, I will end this episode here and we will start the next one, greeting the reclusive heir and continuing with the story. So, thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. And as always, I'll see you next time.